Hey everyone, welcome to this conversation with Vibe Dojo. My name is Jeff Batt. I'm welcomed here with Destery Hildenbrand, my co-host, and we are bringing in one of our, I have to kind of give a little bit of an introduction to Josh. So we're talking to Josh Penzell today, and I have to blame him a little bit initially because he is the one that got me started on vibe coding, specifically Lovable. So I was actually doing a little bit of vibe coding before I saw his session at ATD. I believe I forgot what the name of it was, but one of the
It did
ATD
something.
conferences. Yeah, and so I was doing Cursor. I was working with Cursor. I was doing a little bit of ChatGPT and stuff like that. And in his session, he started talking about. We were presenting in the same session, but in his part, he showed Lovable. And I'm like, "Well, I've never heard of Lovable." So I started, even right in that session, signed up for Lovable. I started doing, some trials and stuff like that. I have been addicted ever since. So I've been using Lovable. I've been creating a lot of my apps inside of Lovable, and so I really blame Josh for that. So I just wanted to just put that blame out there to begin with here.
And
So
I hope the
earlier,
people from Lovable are listening and my check is in the mail.
there you
Should be.
go. So it was over this weekend, and then at the end of last week, I got message after message after message from Jeff saying, "Hey, check this out. Hey, go to this link. Hey, I just did this thing. Hey, I just updated this. This is so great. Oh wait, I got to do my real job. Hang on, I got to go."
That's the problem with, like, doing this side venture of with, Destry and myself is, like, we're working on this, our website and stuff like that, and I'm just, like, everything I get excited about inside of Lovable, I'm sending it to Destry, and he's like, "Calm down, Jeff. It's okay. I don't
Yeah,
even know
no,
what
I
to
mean,
do."
it is the, I used to use Replit a lot more than I do now because of the app.
Mhm.
Just because it had an iPhone app and I could, on the plane, in the car, at my bed, whenever I had an idea, I would just pop it in there and start. Now I don't do that as much. I feel like now I know what it's capable of and what things are doing. And also I think it's amazing what you can do with Claude. I mean, right. Especially, and they just do a new release today. Um,
Yeah, the
but
Copilot or the dispatch stuff that I saw.
I mean, I've been using Cowork for, and I'll try pulling it up here in a second. I've been using Cowork for genealogy. Cowork is the one that runs your compute. I've been using that um, just constantly to do genealogy research. And so essentially I just have it. I'm starting it right now so I can pull it up, but I just have it like all day long. Just keep going deeper into family search or ancestry.com or whatever, just deeper and deeper. And then it'll sort of like pause, right? Or stop. And I'll just be like, go deeper. I need you to go deeper. And essentially, I've gotten back to, at this point, and I'm like 100% Jewish, right? So there was a point where there were no last names, right? It was like David, son of, Bill, not Bill, but you get what I'm saying. So I've gotten back to the 1770s on one of my lines. That's 10 generations. And
Wow.
that's, I'll pull it up, while it's working. And that's like not even prompting. That's not doing anything, right? That's what's so like crazy about it. Here's Claude real quick. I'll have to go back and forth
And
here.
I do want you to actually introduce yourself. I kinda just jumped right into it because I was
Oh,
excited.
I
But,
thought you were
yeah.
going to keep introducing me so I didn't have to. Yeah. So I'm Josh. Hi. I think what I mostly do now is consulting and keynotes and workshops. So you guys have these day gigs. I don't, right? This is my day gig. Uh, and yeah, I think what makes me unique maybe is I don't come from the IT background. I actually don't even, like most of us, come from the L&D background, right? But I do, I come from a theater background, right? I have a Master of Fine Arts in theater. And so one of the things I really think is it's not, it's not really can it do it, it's can you imagine it, right?
Mhm.
And it's just cool to me. Again, this is where it's running on a different one because I actually ran out of space on this one. But just to show you, I mean, and by the way, it's just doing this. I haven't given it more than a sentence, at all. Right? It's just pretty incredible.
So are you just
What it
pointing to
finds.
files inside of like Google Drive? You're just having it search
No,
for
this
files
is no. This is going to like what's it? It's opening Claude and going into here. I'll show you. It's opening Claude right now. Not Claude. Sorry, it's opening Chrome. It just opened 4 Chrome windows.
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
It's about to start navigating them. I'll show you in a second once it start navigating. Here, look. Can't show you all
I
of them.
saw the extension. There's a Claude extension that allows you to give it permissions to do stuff like this.
Yeah, look. So it's. Oh, hold on. Can you see the browser?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't do any of this. Like this is. It's clicking and doing right now. Here's another one. Right? It's literally like going to log in for me. There's another one it's working at. You can see it even typed in Fineglass or Fenglass. It's searching like different variations. And then, here's another one it just is going to right now, stevemorse.org. Here, see? It's logged into my ancestry.com and it's just running. And I just have this running like, in the middle of the day when I'm doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And basically it started with me saying, had to give it a couple of things, but I said, go back as far as you did. I used to do deep research to do this. But then I realized, right, like it's pulling from stuff, but it's going to be limited. I have the ancestry.com thing. I don't want to click on all the freaking hints because most of them aren't going to be worth it. So I just let it do it all day.
That's mind-boggling, to be honest with you. I can't even, this is stuff that we couldn't even have imagined years ago, except for in sci-fi movies. Iron Man, right? He's just talking to Jarvis and Jarvis is just doing all the stuff. It's very similar, right, to what you're doing now with Claude.
Well, I did something. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but it's not like this is rocket science, right? Now that I said it to you, you go, yeah, that's easy. And I don't need to give you instructions. I don't need to hand you some special code book. I really don't even need to give you a prompt, right? Now you're going to go and do that, or can go and do that if you wanted, if you're already paying for it or whatever. You'll experiment with that. And then, Jeff, you'll go off and have another brilliant idea, right? That has nothing to do with genealogy. And that's none of that's like technical. I think maybe that's why you guys are doing what you're doing, right? It's just like, can I imagine it? Yeah. I'm hoping maybe this won't be the only time I blow your mind, right? But it's
that's
not
really
like
cool.
Yeah, it's not. Can you imagine? It's not can AI build what you imagine. It's can you imagine big enough for AI?
And we're kind of in this ideation world instead of like having to learn how to code anymore. So having to go learn syntax. Now it's not about that anymore. Do I know this code? It's about what my ideas are and coming up with the best idea and stuff. So yeah.
And how I work in relationship with not a machine, like not a calculator, ones and zeros, not an authoring tool, but how do I work with, right, this cowork that now is going to go do research while I'm going to go and work on a task while I'm doing deep research, and right. And I think one thing I use as this like metaphor is we're moving from a world of like product and process to one of performance. And what I mean by that is if you go see a film at the movies, and I just saw that I took my kids to see the 25th anniversary. It's at, or 30th, whatever. It's at the AMC right now. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. So I took my kids to AMC and we sat in the big thing, right? And we watched it. And it's the same exact movie as when they released it 25 years ago. The actors did their work. Everyone came together. They produced it. They solved it. They fixed it. And then they launched it. And the product is exactly the same. And in some ways, that's what we attempt to do is like process, right? Like reduce human error. Continuous improvement is all about Saying essentially human creativity to fit more in a team. I mean, really, that's like sort of the, right? If someone can be brilliantly creative, if they can't work with the team, right, then they don't work, then they end up having to start their own company, right? I don't know from any experience. But it's funny because then I direct, I was a theater director. And so that's where I think then instead of the product, the film, now we're in performance world. When you see Lion King today or 5 years ago, that same production, it's the same words, same movements, same lighting, same all this stuff. But it is performed live in front of you by employees who are doing that. And by the way, do you know what the highest grossing single entertainment title of all time is?
No.
I think maybe like Star Wars or
like Lord
Marvel.
of the Rings, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Lion King, the production of Lion King has grossed over $14 billion, which is more than the top, just the musical production that's been running has grossed 14 billion, which is more than the top 3 films and their grosses of all time combined.
So you're seeing it more like you're a director. You basically go in, all these different like websites and components that we're using to vibe code is not anything new. It's stuff that already exists, but we're basically directing it to create our own experience, basically. Is that kind of what you're getting to?
Directing is not telling it what to do, right? Directing is helping a team, is helping an ensemble, is helping a group go towards something. And sometimes that means in a rehearsal room, you're figuring it out with them. You're just the decision maker. So part of the rehearsal process, right? Like when you're rehearsing for a play, the reason it's not like film is you can do the scene and get out. With theater, we have to perform it from start to finish. And if one actor screws up, the other one needs to be able to cover. And the person doing the lighting needs to know where to jump to do the next lighting cue. And the person off stage needs to switch, right? So everyone has to understand the psychology in the final, which is why when you rehearse, you're building a performance. Because then you're going to have this ensemble of people who are going to do it. The director leaves, right? Julie Taymor is still making money off of that production that other people now are keeping going. And I think that's what we're moving into is more performance because AI introduces human variability. So rather than think about how we do the same things, instead of starting at, for me, it's all in the play itself, for instance, is trying to say something. I don't know what it's saying. I have a feeling. All the actors have a feeling. The designers have a feeling. Our job during rehearsal is to find it together.
And that almost seems like it's more of a messy process. And is that kind of why the reason why I've heard you talk about like, you don't like prompt engineering, that term, because it is more of a conversational, figure it out as you kind of go process. Is that part of the reason why you like that? It is a messy process, creation.
Creation should be messy and we should be able to fail. The cool thing with AI is you can fail from very high very quickly. I think that's like that iteration is so it rewards iteration and rather than me spending the cognitive energy trying to put into words the thing that I think I might want, but I might not want for a problem that I think I have, but might not be the real problem. So
you don't really
I have I have an idea. I need to build let's pull something up. I need to build a website. Okay. So that's like a simple, or I need to build a PowerPoint. Let's start with that one because I think that's simple. And you guys have seen, I think what I've done here. But let's say like I need to build a presentation. Okay. So my idea is, why don't I vibe code that presentation? All right. Like that. I think that's a pretty natural step actually. Let me open this up. AI. Here we go. Okay. All right, cool. So like, I'm like, cool. I want to make a presentation, right? So I'm going to like, oh, cool. So now I'm going to make it. And then I go, you know what? I can make it interactive if I want. Let me try that. And then I'm like, it'd be really cool like Mentimeter and all those stuffs, and you guys have done this, right? I'll just build that in. So let me start a session, right? Let me open the controls. It's not here. Let me get the QR code, right? People are going to join. They can vote here, right? I can now have them do all sorts of stuff. I'm going to have them take wouldn't it be cool if I had them take a photo and upload that? Like, I don't know if Mentimeter does that, but like, wouldn't that be cool? For my Oz one, I had a color picker, like, what is emerald? Right? And so then I'm just sort of going now, at some point I have to build the presentation. So like, I'm going to present this. So there's an end outcome, right? Sometimes the problem is when there's no end outcome, then that's where you just continue to play, which I don't think is a bad thing. And then eventually I'm going, okay, I'm doing this. And I go, what would be really cool is it has to be like compliant. Cool. So I'm going to build in accessibility stuff to it. Oh, what'd be really cool is after the presentation, like, I'm probably going to have the transcript. So this is now a website. So instead of like upload the PowerPoint and the handouts, why don't I just like give them the presentation and the link? I'm going to log into something over here. So here's an example of one I did for Penn's UPenn. And what's cool here is like, this is by the way, I made these. It's like, wouldn't it be fun if I could move these? And if my face was constantly changing, right? And wouldn't it be cool if, and wouldn't it be cool if I could demonstrate a game and how it works and blah, 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 But then I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if there was an AI where they could talk to the transcript? And hey, instead of just I'm going to start with lead cap because like I could do leads from this,
And I like the way you're saying that. It's because there's that question, that curiosity question of like, wouldn't it be cool if I did this? So as you're
and it doesn't all have to be perfect, right? So now this is going to work. I mean, it might not be perfect, but I can go back and forth. And then you start to say like, whoa, right? Well, if I'm doing that, why don't I just like have my own, my own version where I can talk to everything? So this is the back end of my website, the admin portal on my website, right? Which I built because I was like, how am I going to update this thing in the future? And I have my own back end and my own AI, right? And going back, and then I was thinking, oh, it'd be cool if it can auto sync with a drive. So I built that in, right? And then I'm going, it'd be really cool, each of those presentations, if I could track who's going to what and what they're saying. So I could track that. And because I'm tracking, we have Google Analytics. So what if I could just like hook Google Analytics into this? And what? I also have HubSpot I'm paying for. So what if I could just measure everything? And I don't know, some of this, I have videos. Well, I don't want to let me hook it up to YouTube. Hey, I need to be able to edit these so that I can edit it once you upload it from YouTube. Here's the thing, right? And it's just a continual work in progress. Not everything needs to be shared on the front end. Right.
This is a running theme from Tim. Tim Frost had the same kind of thing. Instead of scope creep, it's experimentation, or it's the next idea, right? It doesn't seem like we're getting bogged down in the term scope creep anymore. It's like, what if we could also do this?
It's not, scope creep. This is I think, and by the way, there's my front of my website. Now I put an AI on that. Because I used to send people to ChatGPT. And then I said, no, I want to make my own Josh GPT. So then I made my own Josh GPT, right? And I want to be like, could you, set up a calendar booking with me? That would be cool if you could hook in my HubSpot link, right? So you're just constantly exploring and like, what are the stakes? I think with some things, right? There's other things we can look at. I'll show you another example in a second of some other stuff, but I just think we're not experimenting enough. And really quickly with the scope creep thing, like scope is creeping up on what?
Yeah. Well, in your case, it doesn't really creep on anything because you're doing you're enriching yourself. You're enriching the things that you're doing to make it easier. One of the challenges I think a lot of us face though in projects is that there is these constraints, right? There isn't as much You can experiment. It's like, oh, we got to get this right the first time, because that's the mindset that these projects and, manufacturers or whatever vertical you're in, right? That's the mindset that they've always been in. And getting to your mindset is a whole different set of skills that we are not currently sharing or encouraging with the majority of the people that are out there.
I call it, that sounds silly. We need artistic intelligence. And I'll even make that a difference between what we've known for a long time as like design thinking. Okay. I'm just trying to pull up something I wanted to show. I'll deal with that in a second. I think it's always been, first it was about optimization, and then it was sort of like optimization and obsessing over the customer. And the design think was really empathizing with the audience to the nth degree. But in creativity and creative thought and art and artistry, right? You have to bring some of yourself too. And at some point, that means your sort of inspiration, your creative belief, your value. And we've done a good job just by essence of capitalism and just industrial and right how quickly things have moved. And that's why things are going crazy right now. We've sort of like compressed that. We've said like, leave that to the side. Don't engage with that in your work. And even the few people who do feel like sometimes they have to compromise in some ways, or there's like the few, right? But what I think is people need to be bringing more of that opinion, more of themselves, and keeping in mind the end user too. You can do both. The problem is that gets messy. It gets messy, but
you run into red tape a lot more too. But yeah.
Well, theater, more people, more collaboration. Generative AI is more like a human than a machine. So you're essentially, again, this performance, this ensemble becomes a really important thing. I did at Training Mag just a few weeks ago, right? I did a presentation, or a few months ago. I did a presentation on theater think, and one of the exercises I said is, think of what's the metaphor that describes your team. Like, my team is like a NASCAR race. My team is like the Titanic. Like, I don't know, Jeff, like my team is like Frankenstein. My team is like, the Miracle on the Ice. Okay. Like, what is, I don't know, you could answer or make up. Like, I'd be curious in what one of your answers would be.
I don't even know. Destry, do you have one?
So my team is like a car crash. How about that? Right. That it has its moments where it's like, you can't look away. Right. But it's also, there's some struggles.
So then there's the question of, right, would everyone describe it with that same metaphor? Is that the metaphor that the boss is leading? And was that set? Sometimes it's even people go, I heard someone go like, we're like, I don't know, Survivor or something. We're always together trying to make, even though the odds are against us. And then I said, is that purposeful? Is that metaphor purposeful? And I think that's like a really important thing, right? There has to be taste, your taste. We have to bring that to it. And we've been so constricted. I think that's where we've had this problem. We've been so constricted because of the limitations that we've had on technology and access, that suddenly when you're given the ability to just about imagine anything and create just about anything, you almost don't know what to do. What I find usually is like, and I'm sure this is the experience y'all are having with what you're doing, you see someone do something, you go, why didn't I think about it? It's so simple. You just asked the AI to do this one thing. I didn't think about that. That's a creative act. you get what I'm meaning? That's a muse. That's an inspiration. It's why sometimes I coach and I consult and I say, if you want to drive like all this vibe coding and all this stuff and like productivity and all that stuff, start with like some sort of big thing to get people realizing they need to think differently. And then your big challenge is creating the space to allow them to do that. Because there's going to be a J. Like, there's going to be a hit to productivity. Like, you can't not have it.
Yeah.
Right?
How do you get people
to
start
lessen it
thinking that way? Specifically.
That's I think it all starts, right, with getting people to realize, right, that it's not about the process. It's about the value. It's about it's unlearning a lot of stuff. Like, what do you love? What do you love, Jeff, doing? Like, what got you into what you do now, and what brings you joy in your work? There must be something. Is it putting stuff in right places? Is it when someone says, "Whoa, that's really cool"? Is it the light bulb moment? Right? Is it the idea that you're doing good for a lot of people and can create something super accessible? Like, what is that thing?
I think it's creating something that people can use. So like when I was first learning Flash, I had a little motorcycle that if you clicked on it, it would do a wheelie. And I was like so excited about that. And I was like showing everybody, hey, look, when you click on this, it can do like it can pop a wheelie. And so to me, that's what I get excited about, is making something that's functional and stuff. But
Functional and fun, it sounds like
and
to
fun.
you.
Yeah.
Why do you want to make it, like, why did you want that bike in there? Why was that so important?
It was part of an assignment, but it was more of like I could make it happen. Like I was able to do it. And I was able to, nobody else was kind of doing something like that. So I was able to be creative in that way as well.
So why don't we start with that instead of I have to start with my content creator or my PowerPoint or my storyboard.
So you'd almost have to
Right?
rethink.
Why don't I just start with the end? Like, here, let's just do something. I have stuff I could show, but like, why don't we do it together? Because I don't think we need to talk. Like, this is like, heck, we can do this. First of all, here's an example just to get your minds thinking. You heard of AIGP? It's like the AI governance professional certification. I'm like, oh, I want to learn that. So I went out and I had AI do all the research, and then I just kept pushing it. And eventually what I got to was, I'm essentially going to have a teach back, and I'm going to have it dialogue, and I'm going to have it do all these things, right? But then I was working on, and that's for fun, right? But then I was working with a client. And with that client, they wanted me to build like an e-learning module, essentially. And so I said, well, and they were going to use the in-house editor to make it simple, which is like Rise, built into the LMS. But I said, well, why? Like, why don't we just build it using Claude? And so let's try building a quick, let's do this. Let's build an e-learning on something. I don't know and we're going to put it into whatever platform. Give me the constraints. You were saying like we have projects and the reality gets in the way. So let's see how I could, it has to be in SCORM. It has to be an XAPI. It has to go into my LMS. Like, give me the constrictions, and then I'll vibe with you, and we'll try vibe coding.
Yeah.
And I'll use Claude. Only Claude right now.
Only Claude. There you go. So I would say
Everyone
that
has
some
access.
of the technical restraints that you have, right? It does need to be SCORM related. It has to have some sort of an assessment, or you need to be able to track how well they did inside of there.
Okay.
And then
so does that essentially mean just you need XAPI or SCORM?
Sure. Yeah. I just need a way to say this is complete, incomplete. I scored X out of X. I did that kind of stuff, right? So how do we track? And then based on that, that's typically, right, that's the magic 80% that everybody goes for, whatever the 80% came from, that's what most organizations are looking for, so that they can tick that box, so that they can.
What are the other give me the technical. Yeah. Like, okay, so it needs to be in a SCORM zip file. I need to be able to upload it into Docebo. It needs to like, slides. Okay, well, let's just forget multiple. It has to, what is it teaching? What's our objective? Like, why are we jumping to slides and it needs to measure these 5 things, as opposed to, like, in my mind, everything's measurable and anything's doable. I'm going to work backwards. So tell me what it is. Let's just start with like a topic or something we'd have to build, or something we'd and we'll see in 15 minutes what we can do, right?
Something big we see all the time is teaching people how to handle difficult conversations with employees who struggle.
Okay, I need to build an e-learning, right, about to teach employees how to have difficult conversations. Yeah.
Yep.
What else? Just tell me what else I would like.
Typically, they're work-related, they're conflict-related, conflict resolution. Some of it is leaders trying to motivate and or adjust behaviors, things like that.
It needs to assess their understanding of the content as well.
Yeah. Ideally, they have some way to prove that they got something out of it, good, bad, or indifferent. He went straight to the 5 levels of Kirkpatrick.
What's our LMS?
Oh, you could do Cornerstone.
Cornerstone, yeah, that's a big one.
Can I get a let's just start with that. Okay. So I think it's really important to just, and as you're looking back at the recording, and I think this is something we're trained as artists to do, notice how many times you limited yourself at the very beginning by saying like, I need X number, I'm going to need to have a lot of slides. So now I'm putting in my head, I need slides. Why can't it be a dialogue? Why can't it be a conversation? Why can't it be right? It needs to measure these 5 things as opposed to I'm going to have it measure all these things. Okay. And we're going to do this a little quicker than I would. Like I would generally, really be having this do some thinking and other stuff, but for the sake of it, it's still going right. Okay. So it says LMS, Cornerstone XAPI package via an AI. Okay. Perfect. Observation layer nudge. Okay. So this is also saying you need a dedicated LRS because of all these things. I think if we want something like Docebo, it might not have that. So we can, so I'm going to say, actually, we have Docebo. I need you to start building it out as a concept. Make it AI powered as well. And think of the ways to best help these adults learn and prove the skills. Androgogically sound, fun, engaging, blah, blah. Okay. Now, what I might do while this is going, by the way, is I would say something, right? I would go in here. I need to create a comprehensive course on conflict
You're doing the research
management.
Right?
Yep.
So you're
yep.
okay. I don't know
conflict. What was it? Conflict management or conflict?
Oh, difficult.
What was the topic?
Yep. Difficult conversations.
Right. On difficult. I'm just going to say difficult conversations in the workplace, and yep. I want to research comprehensively everything there is to know so that we can create a comprehensive course. Don't worry about too much. We can cut later. Also provide additional areas for future research at the end. Cool. So we'll let that I would let that go because that'll probably take.
You then
I'll take that research.
Okay.
Yeah, but that generally is going to take time, and I'm waiting too fast, and I'll just click through all of these things because I just want it to go. And I might do this 2 different times too. Like I would just set this in a few different tabs because it doesn't matter. But anyway, that's going to take anywhere from 10 to 45 minutes, right? So now, and by the way, now I go back to Docebo, right? And it's going to build something. While that's going on, maybe I can, I'll show you something in a second, but I can tell you with certainty while this is going on, because I've just done it, it works, all right? You can create with all due respect to all the content authoring companies, I'm right now creating, a AI or non-AI powered course using AI, using Claude solely. It's XAPI compliant. It uploads and it works, and it captures everything. I have it capturing information in the first one using profiles to continue that through a whole learning module. I also am able to give it to my customer pre-translated. They're going to hire someone to double check it. And I have built into it all the accessibility features. For instance, it talking, sounds. I wish I could show it to you, but when I deliver it, hopefully I'll be able to share it with everyone. But it just came from pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And now, even as I'm working further down, I find myself going back and updating the first one so I can track something. And by the way, I made it AI powered so people could talk to it. But then I thought this might go out to folks who can't have live internet. And that's costly. So I removed that and did stuff like, hey, can I have a conversation where it's old school? You capture the information, and then we'll bring that back later. And then I show that to my customer, and they go, wouldn't it be great if, could we use this for, how would we solve? And now they're thinking in that way.
Yeah.
And the only difference between them and me is I just have the time to explore with AI, and I've developed relationships. So I know how to, and I have this thought process where essentially I can get it done a little quicker and move a little faster because I've honed that. But as I think you can see, none of this is technical, and I don't even use it's exploratory, right?
So how does, if someone's concerned about AI taking my job, for example, what's your response to that? If like saying, I used to go in and I used to build all the storyline courses. Now, if AI is building the storyline courses, what do I do? Like, what's my job in this whole new era?
Okay, why was your goal? Why were you building storyline courses?
That's not a concern I have, but specifically,
no, I don't mean you. You're putting forward this thing, right? So why was the company hiring me to build this content? Okay.
Yeah.
Because they had a need for it. So I have two choices. One is I realize content is becoming a commodity and that anyone's going to be able to put out the same content I used to, and it used to take me hours to do. Okay. Or I could focus on, great, now that that's out of my way, what else could I measure for you? How could I prove this works? How could I integrate this more into Microsoft? How could I use an internal Azure key? How could I, right? How could I create new learning experiences that don't require people to log into a system they hate? And it also means acknowledging perhaps our failures of the past, which I think is so difficult to do. But let's be honest, and let's be like completely 100% honest. And I say this with all the love for everyone in my industry. How many e-learning courses have you really taken that you just thought were like the bee's knees perfect, better than anything? I mean, have you ever really taken one that you would prefer to go through rather than learning it yourself or do it? Like, I'm just trying to be honest, okay?
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, that's a lot of gray space for us. Mm-hmm. And that means the artistic vision comes out. And so it comes from then saying, my goal was never to just build stuff out. And if it was, that's going to be hard. Now you need to develop an opinion. It's like a photographer. Yes, I might be able to create fake images, but a photographer is going to help put things in a certain place. Someone who knows photographs is going to be able to look at it and say, here's why it would look bad. Here's why this doesn't look real. Here's where this doesn't make sense. Here's what I would add to make this. Same with my vibe coding. I'm not going for perfection, right? I'm going for exploration. Now, I understand why that doesn't work in certain organizations at the moment, but it is my deep conviction that that is why why we're seeing so much stuff going on and why we really haven't seen the benefit from AI, right? That we should have, and all these amazing, productivity gains and all that, because it's not about productivity. It's going to make us less productive in some ways, right? If we're just trying to create the same crap over and over again, unless you're just trying to the same crap over and over again, which then the customers will come to expect, and we go on a whole thing,
Yeah. So it's almost like getting a new modality and trying to fit the same old stuff in that new modality, like a new way, right? So there's that skill disconnect. So I will pose this to you and ask your thoughts on this. So we're talking about performance. We're talking about having that sort of exploratory mentality and vibe. What would you suggest for people watching and people listening out there? Like, what is that upskilling look like? What kinds of directions, what kinds of things would you encourage them to do? if they were going to start thinking in this performative kind of way.
Yeah. It's hard because it's just the way I think in some ways. And so I've been trying to think about how to sort of share that. I think the first thing we have to do is just start. You have to get in the skill and you have to have in the muscle of just going to it for all sorts of things. You have to just build up the skill of opening it up and starting a conversation. Anytime in your head you're going, I wonder if, could I, can I, is it possible to, how could I? That's where, you go in and you just start talking to it, because then you can lead down other things. And that's going to take time, by the way, right? Because it's messy. So I think you need to build yourself some messy time. And look, here's, something. Okay, it gave us. It looks like it already has some AI stuff in it. Okay. Now I'm just going to say, this looks underwhelming. I need this to be simpler and really don't feel constricted to what's been done. Let's focus on the best way to get these folks to do what they need. The color scheme is off and it's all overwhelming. Assume we can load multiple modules.
I like that you're giving it permission to be creative.
Always. So just give me one in, and generally, right? So this is still, by the way, still have our research coming in here, right? So it's and also a lad in this 8 minutes, you and I have been talking while it's been working. There's no reason why I couldn't have opened other ones and started exploring, right? Now, getting it perfect, that's going to take time. But the cool thing with that is now anything's possible, right? So you can go down the path. It's almost, you have to limit yourself and then say, all right, what is it I'm actually trying to do? Like this, and this is where people get frustrated, is they'll say, oh, this wasn't what I wanted. This will never work. And they're starting there. Doesn't look right. Instead of thinking, I just gave it like a nothing prompt and it gave me something and it cost me nothing. I mean, if an employee did that and it was totally free for me to use them and an intern did this in 8 minutes, right? I'd be like, awesome. Try again. Give me like 3 different versions or something.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you would just keep playing with it until you got what you want. And then, by the way, you might realize this isn't the right approach. You need to start over.
Yeah.
Now Josh, that messiness. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry,
I hate to cut you off. I have like a hard deadline here in 3 minutes, but yeah, I think this has been great. I think this is, I think if out of anything, it gives you permission just to go in and to try it and to be creative and to fail and to explore, basically. So, I mean, this is a great conversation. And any like final words or advice that you want to give to anybody that's just starting out?
Oh, reconnect with your inner creative. Figure out a point of view. That takes a long time to determine your own point of view, right? So I think this is the time. We're all sort of in this existential crisis of what this industry is and what we're doing. I think this is time to not to bury your head in the sand, but to ask yourself what that means for you and how you're going to change or how you're going to go along with it, because it actually opens up a lot of opportunities. But I think to figure that out, you have to go on sort of your creative journey in whatever way that is, right? And so go and engage with that in order to be reminded, right, that there's mess out there. And maybe you'll get ideas for things to come back in, because it's really, and play. Like the genealogy thing, I was like, that would be cool. Write me a story. There's so many, can't tell you how many conversations I have that go nowhere. And how many hours I spend doing nothing. So
that's how we spent most of our time growing up. We just played with stuff. We saw something interesting and we got into it. And then we decided later if it was going to work or if it wasn't for us. So maybe it's just a reconnection.
I would say last words. There's a famous acting teacher named Sanford Meisner, and he said an acting teacher's job, or something like this, an acting teacher's job is to help them unlearn all the bad habits their parents taught them.
You're not wrong. Yeah. You're not wrong. Awesome, Josh. Well, thank you
Okay.
so much. We really appreciate your time today.
Thanks, y'all. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Take it
thanks.
easy.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to remind you just to head on over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you click the like button, subscribe to our channel. Josh, also one last thing. Where can people find you?
On LinkedIn or joshpenzell.com. You can talk to Josh PGPT or find me on LinkedIn. It's also, those are the two best places.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, everyone.